I'm Rendan, and this is the video you're going to unsubscribe to, because apparently whenever I talk about Star Wars, everybody freaks out. And that may be justified because I don't like this show. A huge character that everybody loves from Star Wars, the man Ewan McGregor is back playing Obi-Wan. Everybody should be on board with this that likes the prequels. Now, nobody should like the prequels, but it's fine because Ewan McGregor is good in them, and possibly the only good part about them other than the music. But he's back, and he's a beloved character, so you should be throwing money at this. You should be getting the best writers. And you know what they did? They had a cat and mouse story where Obi-Wan goes and tries to save baby Leia. The entirety of this show is basically just 3 hours. It's just a long movie, and when you break it down as a movie, it doesn't work at all. In fact, it's incredibly obnoxious, filled with filler, and, again, looks like crap most of the time.
I will do what I must.
There's a distinct lack of care and a distinct laziness in the way the story is told. Now again, the story is very simple. It's just Obi-Wan going to find Princess Leia, who's been captured by the Empire, who wants to try and lure Obi-Wan out of his hiding. Simple story, simple premise. It's okay, I guess. I'm not in love with it. It's a very generic premise, especially because the majority of the episodes are just cat and mouse games that feel completely like filler. But we can talk about that more later. I can't even count how many times I laughed out loud at how goofy, awkward, and lazy it comes across. There are so many little things that are just unforgivably bad and poorly executed. And they start literally immediately. Some that spring to mind, though, is one in the first episode when Leia, little 10-year-old Leia, is running away from two adult people who can't catch her for no reason. Who choreographed this scene to look as bad as this does? I understand you don't want to kill her, but is it that difficult to outrun a 10-year-old who has stubby little tiny 10-year-old legs? I could outrun her in 2 seconds. She starts running, I give her a little head start because I'm generous. Watch her go. She's tiny. She's covering no ground at all. And then I take 2 steps and I've caught her. And that's it. That's the end of the chase. But no, she goes like under a log and a guy goes, ooh, step over the log! Step over the log! And then there's another chase scene in episode 2 where Obi-Wan is trying to catch her, which is slightly more believable because there's a bunch of people around, but there's bounty hunters trying to shoot at him as well. So okay, he can't catch her because of all of this stuff. But then when the episode's about to end, she falls off a building and he catches her with the Force, and then the bounty hunters just stop. Wasn't this a planet full of bounty hunters? They just stopped hunting him? From here on out, the bounty hunters they just stop. In the very next episode, there's a laser gate that is blocking Obi-Wan from getting through the laser gate. And you know what? It's not blocking the sides. You could just walk around. And at the end of that episode, Darth Vader starts a fire, puts it out with the Force, and then throws Obi-Wan on the ground, and then some lady shoots the thing, starts it on fire again, and Darth Vader just leaves. What? You want to get this guy, right? He hasn't moved, and you put fire out with the Force 2 seconds ago, and you just leave? Excuse me, what? And then the next episode, there's a scene when Obi-Wan is trying to stop a literal ocean from coming through a window, which is 2 windows away from a door. And the door is trying to be broken through by stormtroopers. And the stormtroopers get through, and he decides to crash the window and destroy the windows to let the flood in to get them. But you know what? The camera cuts out to when that happens, and there's like 8 windows in between where he was and the door. He was only 2 away! And then he outruns an ocean? Well, come on! Run! But these little execution things, the laziness, really culminates in this episode, the 4th one. The 4th one is absolutely horrific. It's honestly borderline unwatchable. How many little things you're just like, what? Wait, huh? I mean, one of the first things that happens is Obi-Wan comes into this Imperial establishment dressed in Jedi garb. Possibly the worst thing to wear to a place that is hunting Jedi. But he shows up in it, and I go, okay, first thing you do is get a disguise. He chokes out a stormtrooper over his helmet. Don't know how that works, but he does it. And then leaves the stormtrooper there. Oh! Grab the armor. I don't care if it's a rehash of A New Hope. Grab the armor. Dude, you couldn't stick out more. You're in Jedi clothes. I could go on and on and on about all of these little execution things that just don't work for me. I mean, most of this stuff can be fixed with a simple cut or a different direction or different shots. I mean, the laser gate that you can just walk around, how about this? Shoot it close. Don't cut to a wide angle, because then you can see that they can just walk around. Like, it's so simple to fix, and they just went, yeah, whatever. You know, no one will notice, I guess. You could just walk around the side. I mean, I'm the director, and I can see that, and I thought of that, and literally everyone on set thought of that, and Ewan McGregor told me in my ear, hey, I could just walk around. But you know what? We're writing the scene. We only have 2 hours to shoot the entire show. Who cares? No one will notice. And that's unfortunately what plagued this show for me, because, again, it's a very mediocre show, and it should just be that. It should just be a mediocre Star Wars show that's nostalgia baiting, with Ewan McGregor saying lines he said before, doing things he did before, with people that he interacted with before. I mean, a lot of it is just that. Like, hey, you remember little Leia? Or Leia, now she's little. Hey, you remember Luke? Well, he's little now. Hey, remember when Obi-Wan said, I'll do what I must? Hey, remember when he said, hello there? Remember all these things? We're going to put him in the show, and most of it is just going to be him walking around with a little girl. Okay, whatever. People will like it because they remember things. Whatever. It should have just been that. And honestly, it could have been. But there's so many little things that bug me about it. And it's not just this execution. It's not just the lazy writing. It's not just the lazy filmmaking. It's the actual cutting, pacing, editing of the show itself as well. Because, like I said, a lot of this is filler. If you made a movie out of this material, because it basically is as long as a movie could be, Lord of the Rings is longer. So make a movie out of this material, the first thing that would happen is you would cut down half of it. Probably about half of it. Because there is an entire episode, episode 2, dedicated to him going to find Leia, getting Leia, losing Leia, getting her back. You could cut 90% of that episode. And I'm not even kidding. You could literally cut 90% of that episode. You could cut from when Leia gets kidnapped and put her directly onto that Imperial base in the ocean with the Inquisitors, and you wouldn't lose really anything. You could cut almost that entire section of this show out. And there are so many other things you could cut. It's just fluff. There's so much fluff in this. If you get down to the meat of this story, which again is generic and bland, there is at least something there. There's some fun to be had here. The Obi-Wan and Darth Vader fight scenes are okay, I guess. The first one's a little awkward. The second one in episode 6 is fine. It's fun. There's some fun stuff like that. The Grand Inquisitors, I enjoyed. I wish I saw more of the Inquisitors. I liked Reva. I liked her backstory as a youngling. I liked a lot of what they were doing character-wise with her, and I liked that Obi-Wan was struggling, and then he kind of comes into his own. It's like a coming-of-age story, sort of.
You have failed, Master.
All of the other Disney properties are all okay because they throw a lot of money at them and they look good. And honestly, with the Disney stuff, that's what I've come to expect. A pretty bland, generic retelling of old things that is hyper polished. And this is that without the polish. And that's what's frustrating. I don't want to say you need someone completely different to head Star Wars at this point, but you probably do. I mean, Mandalorian's a great show. It's probably the best thing that Disney has in terms of Star Wars properties. And why couldn't you get one of those guys on board for this? Or why couldn't you get somebody that one of those guys trusts for this? Why couldn't you get someone that's passionate about this story? It feels like this story is being told by people that were forced to tell it. That's what it feels like. And because they couldn't even come up with a season-long thing. It's 6 episodes. And they're not even consistent in length. 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes. It's completely inconsistent. And the runtime is something that is an illusion to the rest of the show. Complete inconsistency. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's fun, and sometimes it's downright terrible. There are entire episodes, episode 4 specifically, is downright terrible. And then there's some episodes that are pretty good. I like episode 5. I think episode 6 is solid. There's just a lot going on that doesn't need to be here. So that's my tirade on Obi-Wan, another Disney property that completely underwhelmed me despite having meteorically low expectations. I enjoyed some of it. I enjoyed Ewan McGregor. I like seeing him back. I think Hayden Christensen is still terrible in the prequels, but it was honestly nice to see him. I think he does what he can with this material, and this material is better than the prequels by a stretch. So, at the end of the day, it's just below average. And that's the unfortunate part about it. Because you have some beloved things. People really love these two characters. People really love Star Wars. Some people, I don't know who or why, love the prequels. And so, this show could appeal to a lot of people, and it does appeal to a lot of people, but I just don't see it. Personally. I know a lot of people have liked it, have talked about it. I haven't watched really any reviews on it. I haven't read really any reviews on it, but I've seen people that I know talking about how much they like it, and I just don't understand. I really don't. I think it's like a 4 for me. It's just on and then not, with some really lazy stuff. So, bye!